talking about some games and morals. Welcome to the Podasaurus. Kyoryu and his friends won't bore us. Hopefully. Welcome to the Podasaurus. So listen up, it's time for Podasaurus.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Podasaurus. I'm your host, TimberTaft, alongside my co-hosts, KyoryuHunter.
Did you forget my name?
No, it's Lou. And Ken.
Hello. Am I Ken
also
today?
Also known as Ken.
Ken, also known as Ken.
How are you guys doing today?
I'm alright.
I'm alright. I'm alive.
Yeah.
Welcome to the year of our Lord 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big thing going on now. We got 2020. We got perfect hindsight of what happened in the past behind us. So,
Ha ha
you know,
ha ha
a lot of
ha.
everything. Yeah, shut up. I'm gonna make the joke. Shut up. Why don't you just not talk?
Wasn't that joke already an old meme in December of 2019?
It was an old meme. Well, how would you know? Where were you during December of 2019?
I was already in the future, man. I was living it up in 2020 while you guys were
Well, you're
waiting.
apparently on Lake Minnetonka or something from Avatar, so I
That
don't.
was Lake Laoway. Thank you very much. We don't talk about Lake Laoway. Okay, so...
So is that from Avatar, like James Cameron movie?
No, of course not. Who makes references to the James Cameron room? I thought that's
Or
buried.
the M.
like,
Night
12 feet in the
Shyamalan
ground.
movie.
Yeah, that's the
What's
good
their
one.
name?
Like, screw Legend of Korra. M. Night Shyamalan got it right.
Oh, Lord. So, games, guys.
Well, how
We
were your
do
guys'
talk about games, yes?
how were your guys' breaks? You know, we had a couple, several, many more holidays and stuff. How was your New Year's and your Christmas?
Well, mine went reasonably well. I did have to take a pause from streaming and content productions that I could kind of focus on family. But it was a good time. I think I probably had a good solid 2 weeks of like really not doing anything and just going through my Steam library and playing games that I've owned for years that I never actually touched. Like, there are some games in here that are like, okay, I put a minute of time into that. That's good enough. But like the ones where it's like just literally, I never opened this. It got bought somehow.
Installed it.
Like never installed. And I'm just like, why do I own this? So I've been slowly sifting through the pile and just trying to go, nothing stream worthy. I mean, it was literally, I played Xenonauts for far too long, followed by The Witness, which maybe you guys heard of a guy called Jonathan Blow that made that game.
Ah, yes,
A lot
the
of
man
people
who kept his pee in jugs near him while he made video games.
Yes. I think it started as a game that I was like, it kind of reminds me of Myst. And as it went on, it went, it's kind of upsetting me. Like, it got to a point where it wasn't that it wasn't fun, it's that it's a game that truly doesn't understand the meaning of a reward, right? Like, it's just like, you did a puzzle, good job, here's another one. I'm like, cool. And here's another one. Cool. Like, it never felt like I was achieving anything. Like, there wasn't anything at the end of the tunnel. I was just doing this activity relentlessly to see more of that activity, which is not a design principle that I'm a big fan of in games.
What else has Jonathan Blow made?
He made Braid.
I hated that game.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah,
I actually like. I did like that one.
He's just like, what if games were bad, and then he made Braid.
It's also a product of its era. Like, I feel like Braid is much harder to stomach now after the renaissance of the indie scene. The fact that there were
stomach it when it came out. I'm just like, what is this utter trash that people are trying to tell me is like god tier art? Also, it's typical Jonathan Blow.
I don't know. I mean, I really did enjoy. Like, I'll admit that going through the puzzles, especially some of them, were truly like, oh, I got stuck on it for so long. I feel like it's a game that ultimately, after I played it, the part that I remember is the entire ending sequence that was pretty smartly done, and the way that it ties into the overarching narrative. That I felt like it was a clever narrative, even if the gameplay was admittedly fairly average. I felt like, as far as like the actual playing of the game, it wasn't like anything exceptional.
The gameplay was, what if Mario felt too good to play and had too much oomph behind it? What if it was just like bad Mario?
What if Mario was just a little bit too good for its own good?
And it's like, what if all the narrative was just in books on pedestals? and you can read them.
What if Peach wanted to be in another castle?
It's subversive. What else did you play? What did you play that didn't suck? Other than Jonathan Blow games.
I've actually enjoyed the little bit of the Talos Principle that I played. It's still in the same vein. It's another puzzle game, but it's still trying to like ham-fist a message across. But I felt like the puzzles were a little bit more digestible. It wasn't such a brick wall, and the reward tended to be the fact that we do kind of get, especially because this version came with the Serious Sam sound pack, which if the game doesn't tell you anything. I just went into the audio menu and I was like, narrator voice, what's this? What's Sam? And then it's just this really like snarky narrator that replaced what is effectively supposed to be the voice of God for the rest of the game, and it made it so much better. It was like, I don't know, now my reward was just getting little quips from this guy whenever I did puzzles, and that made all the difference. Just the fact that there was something that happened when I completed something made it more worth my while to progress. I'm a very carrot on a stick kind of gamer, I think.
Carrot on a stick?
Yeah, you know,
like carrot?
Like I want to get the carrot. The carrot for me is progress in the narrative. The stick is I have to play the game.
What about in Final Fantasy 12 when there actually was a thing called carrot? What was the carrot for that one?
I mean, honestly, in that game, I think the carrot was fighting carrot. I think fighting carrot and beating carrot was its own reward. Which did eventually happen. Contrary to popular belief, carrot did eventually fall.
It's like 5 months.
It was not 5 months.
Oh,
it was more like 1 month.
It felt like forever.
Look, be thankful it was the HD edition and not the original that didn't have fast forwarding.
I guess.
We were running at 4 times speed most of the time, I think, to actually make it places. Thank God that was a feature.
Yeah, it did. I need to go back and finish that game.
I think it's a good game.
I rebought it on Switch and I didn't. I get to like the same part all the time, just like stop.
What's the part? Is it the desert with the grids everywhere?
I think so.
That is.
It's after I think you have all the party members, and I'm just like,
Yeah, I think that is definitely a slow point. I remember in the original game, I stopped at the forest because it got insanely difficult, but they're a lot more forgiving in the new version, so I think it's worth going through. It's not the most fantastic Final Fantasy game, but it is definitely a good one, and it's definitely not 13. So there's that.
How about you, Ken? What did you do?
I did 2 back-to-back 3-hour lovely episodes, and that like wrecked me emotionally. But besides that, I did finish Amazon Prime Delivery Simulator 2040. It was really good, actually.
What are your you liked it? Okay, so you're on that side of the fence. What was
I saw your tweets about it, didn't you? Did you tweet out about it?
Yes.
I gotta say, I thought I saw that you had finished it, but I couldn't remember if you sent it to me or if I saw it on the Twitter.
I did it on the Twitters because I knew full well that I was going to be talking about it today.
So far, everybody who I've talked to about that game has basically had their own personally connected reasons for why they like the game that are so personal that it's like it couldn't possibly apply to me. So what about the game worked for you? What makes it good for you?
What made it good for me was that it literally tied up kind of loose ends. A lot of loose ends, actually, near the end of the game. There's a lot of big twists at that last third of the game that kind of came out of left field, but it kind of resolved that fairly nicely. Well, as much as Kojima can, for the most part. And I don't see them trying to do a sequel of some sort unless they go to another area or they do another thing, because Sam's story is pretty much done.
One criticism I heard was like they almost explained too much by the end of it.
Yeah, they kind of do a lot of Kojima-ing. That's what I kind of
enjoy. This 1 hour cutscene explaining everything.
Yeah,
hour? What do you think this is?
Let's just say this much: I was having a drinking game between this one specific phrase, and I was drunk like near half of the ending movie, and I was just like,
was it Timefall and BB?
It was another word that gets explained near the end of the game. It's a new phrase that just expects you to believe that this is going to be the new phrase. And I was like, there's no way they're going to mention it that much. So I'm going to play an internal drinking game. And I ended up regretting it.
Drinking games with like repetitive games are fun. I always recommend people play a drinking game with Final Fantasy X. Take a shot every time they say, you know.
You know?
Chug a beer every time Orin tells you it's your story.
Ooh, that's a good one.
What was another one? Every time they talk about sin, take a shot of something else. Like, make it several shots. And my old man, take a shot of whiskey.
My old man. Oh, that one's so good. That happens so frickin' much.
So I did
I
that.
wanna do that now.
I beat Pokemans.
I
Which-
like Pokemon.
The story is kind of up its own arse, but
What story? What story? The
Like,
story
the-
that was...
the cramming of like the third part of that whole thing of just like, well, there's these new people that come out of nowhere. We're gonna explain this whole thing. I'm trying to be
That was
as
all
like
so stupid. After the credits.
after the credits, yeah, pretty much after the credits, and I could not get over their hair. By the way, I was just like, how in the world?
Their hair was a bit too ridiculous.
It was
just
too-
Is this still Final Fantasy X, or are we talking a different?
We're talking about Pokemon.
Pokemon?
we could
The
have been talking
ridiculous
about Final
Pokemon.
Fantasy X, to be honest.
I was like, I mean, Titus does have fabulous hair.
We
so
could be talking
Because
about Final
certainly-
Fantasy.
He has the most normal hair in the game. Like, his hair
It's
is the most
Him and
normal.
Orin.
Orin's is the most normal. I think Orin does a very good like traditional like my hair got blown by the wind constantly growing up for 20
What
years.
you talking about? You
Yeah,
don't
his hair
spike your
seems
hair
real-
up and have a little queef at the end of it.
What? A little queef at the end?
Queef. Oh no. I don't want any queefs.
Yuna's hair seems normal until you realize that her hair is cut in a weird way and she has a really long rat tail.
Yeah.
That thing behind her is just a really
That
long
thing-
wrapped thing of hair.
I just think
Yeah, I
she's
mean,
like
they
a
make it-
Padawan.
That's true. They make it even more distinct in 10-2 when she like gets her hair changed, especially between forms. It's just like, oh, that's supposed to be just like a ridiculous long ponytail that wraps around her leg while she shoots her guns. I'm sure that's safe.
Bang, 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 bang.
I mean, I don't know. What do you do when like what happens when a bullet hits your ponytail? Like, what's the end? What happens to the hair? Like, no one's done this experiment.
It says the eulogy.
That's something you can work on this next year.
That's true. That could be my next clickbait video. TimberTaft rebrand. We're just gonna
You're just gonna get
gonna
wigs
do
and then
experiments
shoot at the
wigs,
wigs.
shoot wigs. Woo! All right.
Oh, I am playing the Dungeons and Dragons game currently right now.
Oh,
Dungeons and Dragons game.
Yeah.
there's a Dungeons and Dragons game. That's
Not
Star Wars.
not Dungeons and Dragons. That mobile game I keep on forgetting. What's it called?
Oh, the one everyone's making fun
Dragalia
of.
Lost.
Not Dragalia. It's the one that has the Common Rider one. I brought this up specifically because I knew you were gonna Puzzles and Dragons. There we go.
Oh, Puzzle Dora. Okay. I thought you were talking about that one that everyone keeps making fun of now. What's it called? There's some mobile game. There's just ads for it everywhere. And
Yeah,
it's-
the sponsored
Oh,
Shadow.
like Riot
called?
or something like that, or
It's like Shadow Realm or Shadow something Shadow. That's all I remember. And every time I'm like, there's no way this game can be so good that every YouTuber is shelling out for it. There's just no way.
It's Shadow something Legends, isn't it?
Shadow Legends, yeah. You got it.
I thought there was there's another word in it. Is it Raid Shadow Legends?
Raid. There we go.
Oh my God, you
That's
got
what
it.
it's.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
been like the
no.
joke thing lately. Everyone's just like, it's brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends.
It's like when I think it was NordVPN that was everywhere, and then people started going, did you know that that's like not actually that secure? And all of a sudden, just like, I never heard about it again.
Yeah, there are
People
a couple
stopped
people,
like,
there are a couple people I know. They're like, yeah, we're sponsored by NordVPN. I'm like, just like everyone is. I'm not knocking anyone for
Everyone-
getting their. If you're getting your sponsorship from somewhere for money, you do you. You do.
I'm
what's
okay with
good
it.
for you.
Really, for me, it's just make it a tasty pill. You know, if you're gonna give me a sponsorship, make it entertainingly delivered, and I'll bite.
The only ones you have to really worry about are things like MeUndies, which is actually predatory. stuff.
Oh no.
Let's not get into. I'm not getting into that one today.
How about Dollar Shave Club?
Let's
I
not
think
get
that
into
one's
Dollar
alright.
Shave Club today. This is actually the second time that's come up today because someone knows my brain like Dollar Shave Club's calling. I'm like, they've done some shitty things. I'm like, they're good. I'm like, let's not get into Dollar Shave Club today.
Oh no. Yeah, I wanted to say before we move too far off the topic, do they ever explain what happens when a BB becomes a man?
No,
They,
they can't. They can't live with outside the pod.
yeah.
Okay.
So like, if something
Well,
got
now-
shot or the pod got shot or something like that, they have to like treat it immediately. Otherwise, the BB is useless. The BB.
Yeah, and they get like decommissioned after like a year or two too. Like they don't last that long.
Yeah, they cannot grow
no.
outside of the pod.
They get decommissioned because they literally grew too big to be in the pod.
They're too big to be a BB.
Okay. Well, awesome. There's actually an answer for my question. I didn't actually expect that to like have a concrete answer from Hideo Kojima, but there we go. So I guess Kyo, what games have you been playing?
Let's see. I mean, I played I played through like from I'd say like early middle of December until today. I have finished every Clock Tower game now on stream. Finally. One eluded me forever. The one I fell in love with, even though it's probably the worst one in the series. I love it, but I can't defend it. I can't defend any of the gameplay of that game, but I can defend the fact that it looks cool. It has Ace Attorney localization. If you know what that means, it means it's the thing. The game obviously takes place in Japan with people with Japanese names and Japanese settings and culture, but they moved it to the United States and changed everything to localize it so it takes place in America. And like this game opens with you going to your uncle's house, and your character's name is supposed to be Yu, like Y-U-U. And you go in there and you meet your Uncle Phil. Your name is now Alyssa. And you walk into this house, you kick off your shoes, and you walk up from the Genkan, from like the foyer, into the house with Japanese sliding doors. And they're like, this is the United States. But they try and get around it. They're like, this is the ambassador to Japan. So... But like the whole game is like this too, where it's just like...
I mean, they
it's
could just
Ace-
make it in Hawaii, and it's a normal thing.
Yeah, they could have done that too, like do that. But I think I don't know if it takes place in New York or just like, you know, undetermined like U.S. location. But it's
Colorado.
everything's Americanized. But it's obviously Japan. Like the final confrontation between you, like the stalker in the game and stuff like that, takes place in an office, which is still taking place in the United States. By the way, the main antagonist name in English is Maxwell. And then, like, the other guy you talk to, his last name is Hale. And they're in, like, what looks like... It's called the Chapel. But it's actually... it's actually looking more like an Oni-styled, like, Buddhist temple. Or, like, Buddhist shrine. Because it has this giant Oni mask and, like, all this, like, candles and stuff. But, like, it looks... It's very Japanese. But this is...
You never went to the Buddhist/chapel building in Japan before?
No, you know, I just must have missed it.
Must have missed
But
it.
that... I don't want to linger on that one too long, but I loved it, but I also fucking hate that game. That game can go die. Fuck that game. But I also
And
love it.
Which one of them is this? Or do you
Clock
not even
Tower
wanna
2
utter-
The Struggle Within, also known as Clock Tower Ghost Head in
You
Japanese.
you pretty much struggled though, right?
Yeah, I was like, everyone's like, oh, the Japanese name makes more sense. I'm like, I don't know. I played through it, and I'm pretty sure The Struggle Within is a more apt subtitle for that game, because that was a struggle. The How Long to Beat. If you don't know, there's this website called How Long to Beat. If you put like HLTB in the name of a game and Google that, it'll bring up the website and it will tell you like, you know, median time, average time, full completion, and extra, stuff like that. It'll give you like stuff that they polled people have like submitted information about how long it will take. It told me this game was a leisurely 6 hours. The first time I was getting through it, I was like 9 hours in the final area and nowhere near the ending. From where I stopped the first time and like I picked it back up around that same time today to complete it was another 4.5 hours on stream. So that would have taken me like almost 14 to 15 hours to complete this leisurely 6 hour game. I was so pissed off.
I love How Long to Beat, but there is no question that I don't know where I'm pretty sure people inflate like shrink the numbers sometimes with just like this, like some chest pounding of like, oh yeah, I beat that game in 6 hours.
Like, there's
That
no
was me.
vetting process for it, I don't
Yeah,
think.
no. So it's just like I totally beat that game in 6 hours. That was me. I was so fast, and then like I'll play the game, I'll see the average numbers that are being like, yeah, this game, like Xenonauts was that, where I was trying to burn through, so I was like, this is the first game at the bottom of my game pile. I'm gonna play through this whole thing, and then I invested 30 hours into it, and I was looking, and I was like, okay, I feel like I must be close to the end, right? And I look at how long to beat, and it's like, this game could be beaten in 20 hours. And I'm like, then where am I? Like, I am 10 hours overdue for my ending scene. What happened? Turns out I was like 50% through, so I'm not investing another 30 hours. I can't do it.
So I wish it would break it up with people who used a guide and people who did not. Or, like, if you were experienced with the game or not. Like, first playthrough, like, you know, subsequent playthrough. Something that, like, would split up, because, like, using a guide will obviously get you closer to those times. But,
right.
Because I had to use it for another one, too. The other game I played that, like, the one I want to talk to people about this game, I liked it, was Chrono Cross. I just played through all of Chrono Cross the past, like, 2 weeks. And I loved it. I had problems with it, but I loved it. And I'm pretty sure Ken has never played Chrono Cross.
It's one of those guilty things for me where I am more familiar with the music of Chrono Cross than I am with the playing of Chrono Cross. I think the soundtrack is fantastic.
The
Alchemy
two
Fox
battle themes
loves
for Chrono Cross, the main battle theme and the boss theme, both those songs slap. Those are
great.
Great.
Those
No,
are good.
you're
even just like the
completely
smaller
right,
songs, like the
Timber, with that,
festival
though.
music is great. Sorry?
You're completely right with that. I more associate the soundtrack for that game than the actual game itself.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, like, because I know the music is good, I know that the game must be fantastic, because the soundtrack is fantastic. I've just never had the time to go back and sit through it. Maybe it's something that I'll add to my games to stream in 2020 list, just so that I can actually
It took me
enjoy
about 44 hours to get through it, and I didn't end up using a guide after a while, just because once I realized, like, I was messaging my friend, and I'm like, oh yeah, and they have some characters, and like I looked up a guide, and they're like, oh yeah, you couldn't miss this. I'm like, well, I don't want to miss it. Then he's like, yeah, just use a guide if you just want the characters. Just like I would just look at the heading, what it tells me, where it tells me to go, and if it had a character there. Or, you know, it'll say, like, this thing optional, this thing, like, if you want to get these characters, you need to do this optional side quest, which you can miss. So
I think I would just play it blind myself, personally. I had that experience with Tales of Vesperia where people like, if you don't have a guide, you're gonna miss things, and I'm like, I don't wanna play with a guide.
I didn't do it to,
like
I
I'll
didn't
play
do
the
it
game
for, like, boss fights, stuff like that. I wouldn't look at things like that, strategies. I only did for the end once I found out, like, to get the good or bad ending. One of them's fight the final boss, the other one's do this stupid thing that you probably never even thought to do because of it. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to replay this game anytime soon, so I'm going to use it for that. But, like, I really just wanted that one side quest to make sure I got it, because I wanted this character really bad. Didn't really end up using her at all.
that has got to be the saddest thing.
I actually got a better
this.
character from the side
And
quest
then
instead. I
this
got one that was more useful because there's not as many of that. Everyone's color coded. Like, there's 6 elements. Like, it's red, blue, yellow, green, white, black, and like there's only certain ones from each color that are actually decent. And I needed the innate blue character. Like, their innate element was blue. That's what their personal one was, and I needed her. And then, like, there was another character I ended up getting from a side quest too. Is she just was like a glass cannon. So I'm like, I need her to help this character not die. And that was my party. I just really want to talk about Chrono Cross.
I'm so sorry that like what Ken said, like I wish that I'd played it. I wish that I could talk about it because it is a very influential game in the game circles. It's like being like, hey, have you played Final Fantasy VI?
Like, you know I'm talking about Chrono Cross, not Chrono Trigger, right?
Play that one. I'm familiar with Chrono.
Okay, I just want to make sure, like, you know I'm not talking about Chrono Trigger, correct?
Yeah, I know there's a couple Chronos out there, but they both did have good music.
I have less interest in Chrono Trigger, though. Like, every time I look at it, I'm not even the type that's like, oh my god, it looks like Dragon Ball, cannot play. I just don't have as much interest. Maybe it's because people hype Chrono Trigger to hell and back like they do Final Fantasy VII, so I'm just like, I don't feel like there's any way for me to actually enjoy this. I feel like that a lot with games that are hyped so much that people are like, this is the best what game ever in this thing, and I'm just like I don't feel like I can ever enjoy this game because I have an expectation that's way too high now.
No, I mean, I totally understand that claim, though. And Trigger was alright, in my opinion. I wouldn't call it the best ever, but to each their own, I
I'm
guess,
gonna try and play through it. I have it on DS, and I mean, I played all of Chrono Cross on my Vita, because it's 2020, I'm still using my PlayStation Vita, which is almost exclusively to play PlayStation 1 games right now. And I have Chrono Trigger on the DS. I'm like, well, I was playing one handheld. I can probably play the other one handheld easily and just get through it, like just truck through it.
I mean, it's just a matter of time before we're looking at a next-gen console lineup that's like the Nintendo Switch 2, the PlayStation Portable, that is actually a portable PlayStation and not some knockoff portable gaming handheld system.
PSP, shut your mouth.
And let's get a little the Xbox One X Series X Mini handheld TM on the list as well.
Did you see they named the new Xbox the Xbox Series X, and they probably should have known better because everyone's just going to call it the XX.
Well, I think my favorite part about it is there's an additional addendum to that, which is that the Xbox Series X is the last entry in this Xbox lineup before they roll over and just call the next one Xbox, which is going to that's just going to destroy people if they actually do that.
Oh, no, this next one coming out is just called Xbox. It's just that model is called the Series X,
what?
I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
they're trying to just...
It's gonna totally confuse parents that don't know what the hell they're talking about.
What happens when the parents go on eBay and their kid, and it's Christmas time, they're like, okay, we got you just what you wanted. That Xbox you were talking about, here it is, and it's like a used original Xbox purchased off the eBay store, the big clunky black box with the green X on it.
Time to unload my original Xbox.
Like,
I just modded it so you can play import games, so I can play my one import game on it.
oh man, I think the only thing that I ever wanted to play on the original Xbox was was there a game called Tack for the Xbox?
Tack?
Was that a thing? It was like a platformer. There's a little barbarian
Tack in the
boy,
Bower of Juju?
and you played as him, and I think so, yeah.
I'm gonna go out on a...
Yep.
I
remember that being...
There was a Nickelodeon show about it too. Yeah, it was on the original Xbox. It was for all the systems, though, if I remember correctly. My cousin loved that.
Was it
Yeah,
really?
it was on GameCube,
Yeah.
PS2.
It was for the PS2 also.
Everything. What was this game?
Okay, I guess I didn't
Boy
realize.
Advance.
Oh, I think I remember looking at that before I ever picked up a PS2, and then I just totally forgot about it. But I assumed it was an Xbox exclusive. There was also some other weird game where you stacked kitchen furniture into you use the furniture to create platforms for yourself so you could then climb onto surfaces. It was during the era of platformers, but they were Xbox platformers, which just makes them 10 times stranger because that's just not the system where those tended to go.
The Xbox was just picking up the slack from the Dreamcast. Look at the Xbox. The Dreamcast
really
ran off Windows, a modified version of Windows, and then the controller for the Dreamcast is just the blueprint for the Xbox Duke controller. They even have 2 memory card slots at the top.
I think that works. I'm currently trying to actually find what were some of the original, I guess Ty the Tasmanian Tiger was technically an original Xbox game.
Most of those games in the era were at least on PS2 and Xbox.
Blink the Time Detective.
Oh, Blink's the Time Cat?
The Fox. Yeah.
Toe Jam and Earl 3, I think that was one that I remember.
Toe Jam and Earl, what a series. What a guy that made that.
I mean, the thing about that one was that was the 3D entry for Toe Jam and Earl, which is almost wholly different than any other Toe Jam and Earl game. I had no context.
There wasn't a port of Glover on the original Xbox, was there?
I don't think so. I think it was just
Let me
PlayStation
find
and
out.
64 as
Loud
far as I'm
tapping
aware.
and typing. Glover video game. There's a Windows one of it, so I'm going to track down the box copy on Windows for you. Came out the same time as the N64 version.
Yeah, like I said, we're
handle
just
more.
gonna get you all these versions of Glover. I'm gonna go to Japan. I'm gonna find that N64 version. Hell, if I find the PS1 version, I'll go get that for you too.
Oh my god.
I don't even have a PS1.
When is this coming out? In 2016, they said they were going to release it.
Yes, they're making a Glover 2.
They're
That
just
is
finishing the Glover 2 that never came out.
Yeah. I'm curious. Okay, in this era of the next new thing is what everybody streams and everybody makes content for. I just want to see all the people who got duped into like thinking that they have to play Glover 2 for the views, you know? Like there's going to be so many
Like everyone's
upset
like,
people.
oh, we're gonna play Shenmue 3,
Probably.
and then everyone realized like, oh, I don't like Shenmue as much as I thought I would. I'm like, yeah, you don't, because it's for boomers. It's for like the Gen X people that had Dreamcast. If you're not one of them, you're probably not gonna like Shenmue.
Like I'm sure by now most people know that, especially when it comes to what I stream, I am a very patient. I'm very patient with my selections. It's very rare that I'm just like, oh, something just came out, I'm gonna play it right. I'm gonna buy it and play it right now. Like I really don't like chasing.
Like you mean on
trends
stream
if I
or
can
just in
help it,
general?
which is probably to my on stream. In general, I guess I'm pretty slow at that too, considering I was playing a game made in like 2007.
I think the only games I played like trend chasing were Blair Witch and Man and Maiden. I played when they came out because they're big horror games, and it was horror games like modern ones. It's feast or famine, and you gotta strike when it's like when the iron's hot on those. So like if you're, oh my god, I just got someone just like added me again with another person who looks like me apparently. I can't handle this. There's so many people doing it. I think this is a different person too. Sorry. I just happened to look at Twitter and saw that. What was I saying? Yeah, it just.
Did you not even? I thought you didn't even like.
It was okay. It was like. It wasn't as good as Until Dawn. It wasn't bad, but it was just kind of there. It's like this was fine, but like. Some people are like, oh, I'm going to go through and try and savor one. I said that too, but I look back, I'm like, I don't want to play that game again. The game they teased at the end of that looked a lot better.
The one in the forest?
Yeah,
Little Hope. Like,
the next one's called Little Hope. They're doing an anthology. That's why I'm like, it's okay that this one's not that great, because they're making an anthology. They want to make, like make and release a new one every 6 to 9 months. Like, like have a new one out then. Like, smaller bite-sized horror games are about 3 to 5 hours long in the similar style.
It's perfect for you. It means that you'll basically have a horror John Madden to go to every year.
I see a little bit more because instead of just having one big one, it's almost coming out as if it's a TV show season. This is this season. We'll have another one next season, stuff like that. Like in that way, there's like a consistent drip feed of content from this developer where they can put something out, get player feedback, incorporate it in something new, and have something new out. Because like games like that, like Until Dawn, Man of Maiden, and stuff like that, they don't have a lot of sticking power. They're not something where you're just like, oh, I'm gonna play this every day. This is like watching a movie you like every few months or maybe once a year. So it's not like it's too much at once or even too much every once in a while, like at one time. It's just like, oh, I'll see this movie and then I'll see this one later. Like I'll rewatch this, like a couple years or something. Like it's instead of just being like, oh, I'm gonna wait 5 years for the next one and like I'll have one 10-hour game to play for the next 5 years until the next game comes out type of thing. I like this better because with the way they make them anyway, with like the live, like not live action, but the scanned in people, it works better because it's like a TV show in that regard. I don't know what we were talking about and how I got on this tangent.
We were talking about Man of Medan, which stemmed from horror games being feast or famine, which stemmed from... Where did we come from? Ken,
I feel bad for
what we were playing.
I feel bad for everyone that interacts with me because everyone just asks me a simple question. I go on a long fucking tangent about God knows what, and I don't know how to end it or come back to where we were.
I mean,
that's why I like you.
Because, I mean, in both, that is precise. Every quiet guy's dream is.
I just have to mention one thing,
and
then
today.
I get
Not
20
today.
minutes of just.
Not today.
I'm not gonna mention it. Relax. I'm not gonna mention.
Because people like to bring it up on stream just to get a rise out of me. I'm like, can we not do this today? Like, we don't need to do this every day.
Which one? Rebecca Chambers?
Oh, no, that comes up all the time. Like, I'll go into a chat. I'm like, hi. They're like, that's the guy that fucking hates Rebecca Chambers. I'm like, hi. I just came here to have a good time. And honestly, I'm feeling so attacked right now.
I just came here to hate Rebecca Chambers.
Like, we're playing Resident Evil.
I mean, with
like,
that,
we're gonna switch over to Chris so you have to see her. It's like, why? Things were fine. Things were fine until you did this. I've tried to distance myself from Resident Evil the past like 2-3 months as well. So it's like, just stop, stop, people.
Well, I mean, it's trying to rope you back in with another game announcement that just happened.
I honestly kind of don't care though about it. Like, I saw the trailer and I looked at him, I kind of just don't care. Capcom's just like, let's just make remakes, and I'm just like, I don't care anymore. I don't care.
I was gonna actually bring this on as a kind of mini topic here, but how do you guys feel about the state of gaming discourse in 2020?
I mean, it's been, I'd say it's been been a week, and what could have really happened to get everyone talking, but then U.S. politics also found a way to do that within a couple days. So,
as did Mother Nature, it spoke more words than I'll ever speak.
Probably not more than me though.
But I don't know. It's a tie. It's a tie right now. I think the reason I bring it up is just something that I've noticed, especially part of the reason I started making my abridged series, which it did sputter out here a bit just because of delays and also because I'm probably going to switch to a different game. But part of the reason I made it was out of a desire to spur discussion, or to just find things in games that are not as discussed, and find the meat, find the things that could actually be a conversation. Partly because this is content that I wish people made, and I wish that I saw more of, and I feel like something about the modern gaming climate has resulted in a significant shrinking of that discourse. It feels like every conversation is at this shallow depth of just like, did you like it or not? No. Okay, let's move on to the next game. Like, no one thinks about their games anymore. I don't know if this is just me being
no, but that's just the course of internet culture. Case in point, look at Star Wars.
Like, Star Wars,
everyone was either you like it or did you hate it kind of thing at this point. And I kind of hate that culture, like internet culture, and being a fandom, meaning you have to be hot or cold on a specific thing.
I know I'm not...
And I really hate that. I really, really hate that.
I know I'm not in the fandom at all with Star Wars because I don't really care much for it. But it's been 2 weeks since Star Wars came out. I don't hear anyone talking about it anymore.
I've heard a little bit of discussion, mostly just because of certain other podcasts that I follow. And the conversation was basically, it was an entertaining, dumb movie. And it's not even that they didn't want to discuss it. It's that there's nothing to discuss. It was, in effect, it was directed by J.J. Abrams. It was a flashy, vapid Star Wars entry. It existed to be entertaining. There is nothing to read into because it's mostly a rehashing of themes that already existed and have been tread into the ground so deep that you will never be able to get out of the hole.
I'm trying so hard to shut my mouth right now.
Oh, go for it.
I really no. Well, because okay, so the thing is with the Rise of Skywalker, this is coming from me because I am a very huge Star Wars fan. JJ had a lot coming into this movie because of what Last Jedi did, what everything that Rian Johnson did, being, oh, well, I'm going to divert expectations and not having a set plan of what's going to happen with these trilogies. The Rise of Skywalker came in. Of course, it was very flashy. It needed to do what it has to be done, which was fix everything and make this into a nice bow. Everything needed to fit the way it was after having 2 movies that were literally just setup movies, with one being the finish. And a lot of people who watched this movie criticized the chopped up pace of the first third of the movie. And I really hate that because you have to know that coming into this movie, they had to fix the 2 setups that was Force Awakens and Last Jedi. They had to fix that.
Right.
And address the elephant of the room of what Rian Johnson did. And of course, they are rehashing certain points, but Star Wars, according to George Lucas, is like poetry. It rhymes. So of course, everything is going to be brought up the past. of the similar themes. It's like poetry, it rhymes. So that's why the Emperor got back into it. As much as I knew the fact that they probably weren't going to plan to have the Emperor Palpatine in, because Ryan Johnson killed Snoke. Oh, spoilers for a 4-year-old movie. They had made a brand new plan of what was going to be the end game, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, and I think I had like minor spoilers for the new one. I actually have not seen the new one yet, so my opinion is entirely formulated on what I've experienced of the trilogy so far. So I guess in your opinion, J.J. Abrams' efforts have mostly remedied the issues of the first 2 entries, or did it try, but ultimately it was too big of a...
Let's just say this much. It stuck the landing with a pretty bad setup. He made a 5-course meal with the shit ingredients that he was given.
All right, so he was on an episode of Chopped, and he was given like a durian, and they said, okay, make a movie with this, and this is what we got.
Someone outside of the
Pretty
fandom
much.
entirely, because I just
okay.
don't like Star Wars. Maybe it would probably been better. They probably did it this way because they're expected, but things don't have to be trilogies. You don't have to make trilogies.
Yeah, it doesn't. It really doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't need to be that. I really wish if they didn't make this into a trilogy and they made it up into secular stories where it has a beginning and an end point, then that would have been good. That's why Solo kind of didn't do so well. That's why Rogue One did so very well. It knew what it needed. It knew what the end game was, and it was a story that set up another story. That you didn't need to watch the other story though.
But that's part of the problem, isn't it? Part of the reason why trilogies seem to keep cropping up, trilogies or big series of movies, partly because of the advent of television movies, things like Game of Thrones that are just these epic season after season of hour-long episodes. I mean, each one of these things is basically a movie. But what happens in cinema when we're talking things like the Star Wars series or any movie that releases these days, if it comes out as a one-piece entry, there are 2 things that happen. One, they don't have the ability to capitalize on the income of the sequel, which I understand from a financial perspective. Okay, you want to make money.
Yeah.
But if we ignore the greed factor, the second part of this is that making a single movie tell a good, complete, front-to-back story in a condensed 90-minute format is difficult to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no. That's
there is a principal idea here of just they might not have the talent, the raw talent to actually write a story that in that time frame. And it's not impossible to do a good movie that way. Many have done it, and that is a sign of a good writer.
Yeah.
Someone who doesn't know how to cut away the chafe, or who doesn't know, hey, this is not essential to the story. This is a side note. I mean, that's what makes some of these movies bad. That's why the trilogy suffers in a way, is that especially in the first 2 movies, we have so many side plots that fill time just to fill time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And that is a direct product of the writer's inability to make a concise story, or greed. You could pick which one you think they might have fallen into.
What about, like, the
but
Hobbit
both of those
trilogy?
are the big driving forces.
Let's take this.
Oh my God.
This
That's too much writing.
Make 3 long movies out of it.
That could have been 1 hour.
It could have been
movie,
one,
and
maybe
it would have
2,
been a fantastic
maybe 2
movie
if they really
done
wanted
that.
to like expand on things, maybe. But 3, no. I have a friend who's just like, well, don't you just want more of something? Isn't it better to have more of something? No, it's not. Sometimes I'm okay with less of something if it's better. It's okay if it's better.
Yeah, if it's a nice, concise story,
I don't need a lot of padding
less
for
is
things.
more, so to speak.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, time for a lot of padding and shit.
I generally, exactly. I don't have time. Respect my time. I even do this with games these days. Like, I love if it's a long RPG that is dense with content, and there's truly a lot to consume there, and I don't feel like it wasted my time. Tales of Vesperia is very good at introducing characters and elements that, for the most part, are conscientious of, like, it's new information. It's constantly new information, and it's driving the story forward.
I'm sure someone will correct me on this, but like I felt like Vesperia was the least repetitive JRPG I played in a long time when it came out. Like, there's always those like where they always like bring up the same shit all the time, but like they kept going forward. The game kept progressing forward.
Exactly. I recently played another game that I played over my break was a game called Tooth and Tail. Now, it is an RTS, which is definitely not the cup of tea of most of my audience, I don't think. Nerd. But what I will say, what I will say about Tooth and Tail is that, as somebody who played a lot of RTSs, the number one game that I keep going back to that I drop after 5 minutes is Age of Empires 2. Because as much as I want to play through it, it takes an hour to finish a frickin' level. I beat Tooth and Tail in like 7 hours. It was an easy RTS game where it had a plot, it had several levels, it did interesting things with those levels, and then it was over. And I am not lamenting the fact that it was a 7-hour game. I am so happy that I got to beat a game. Like, it is so incredibly difficult and so hard to convince, I think, even developers of this age that please do not make everything a giant 100-hour sandbox. I want short, concise experiences. I actually feel cheated when I own a game that I can't finish just because of its length. Because I'm just sitting there like, I could have experienced more, but what am I missing? I keep going back to some of these games and going, I keep playing this and nothing's happening. Is there something else that's going to happen, or is the rest of the 50 hours just this but more of it?
Let me bring this up to you. What is a current gaming trend that you wish could just disappear from this new decade?
Where like it's just like a lot of like walking back and forth. Like, I don't want another Breath of the Wild ever again. I'm getting tired of the fact that like the Assassin's Creed series has gone to like massive open world action RPGs. I don't want fucking RPG mechanics in it. I want to climb walls.
Yeah.
I want to jump off shit. I don't need deep anything from Assassin's Creed. People keep trying to get me to play Origins and Odyssey. I'm like, I don't want that. You know what I want? I want a boat. I want a boat that I can go ram into other smaller boats and then like jump off, pick some shit up off the shore. Because like I think like Black Flag did collectibles better, where like it's smaller areas. You can just collect. You get all those. You're like, hey, I feel accomplished for this area. Instead of just like, here's all of Venice. Or like, you know, all of like Rome. Get all the shit in Rome. I don't want to do that. I want to run over people with my boat and be done with this game with like 10 to 15 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like
they're... Oh, go ahead.
To build off your thing, Kyo, the one thing that I just hate is go to this tower, see everything around that tower, get everything. I hate that. Assassin's Creed 2 was the only game that done it perfectly. Everything else now is just a copy of that, and I freaking hate it.
I just want to play one of those
hate it
games where, like, I just
so
want to, like,
much.
Shit in an area, like maybe finish a couple areas, then put the same game down and never pick it back up again. Like, I started playing Assassin's Creed Rogue. I have not gone back to Assassin's Creed Rogue yet. It's not a bad game. It's just like, I just wanted this to feel like, you know, scratch the itch for like a minute. I don't want a longer game than this, like this. I don't care. Like, anyone that got all 900 Korok seeds is a fucking
or give
idiot.
me
I'm gonna tell you that right
like
now. Every single person who got all 900 Korok seeds is a fucking idiot that wasted their time. And there are people that did it, and I know people who've done it, and you're an idiot. That was such a massive waste of your time.
I think, to me, the game that struck the balance perfectly with the open world sandbox is The Witcher 3. I played through The Witcher 3, and the reason why it worked is because it was a game that pitched itself as, you are this character, this is the world, and everywhere you go tells you more about the world, the people in it, and usually it's almost episodic. You'll go into a village and it'll be like, help me, sir, I'm having problems with the demons outside. They keep stealing my children. There goes my baby that just went away with the
Would you like
demon.
this baby?
So you go and track down this demon with the baby, and then it's like, oh, it's a shame, the baby's dead. And then you kill the demon, and you're like, I'm sorry about your baby. And he's like, I told that baby not to go with that demon. And there you go. You had an hour of good times with The Witcher, and then you put it down, and you'll come back the next day and you'll have another quest when you walk down the street, and it'll be totally different with its own, like, unique story about the woes of that. Like, it's almost
having
like it's
a collection
of short stories in video game format. I'm okay with that. It's almost like it's based on a book. Yes.
You know what game you should really play, Timber?
Oh, you
You should
would
play the
love the
Yakuza
Yakuza
games.
I've been
A bunch
hearing
of
that.
stern
I
men.
had-
You would love it because literally it is just that. It is just that where you go down the street, random shenanigans happen. You can put the game down after the side story, come back. If you want to do the main story, you can, or if you see another zany side story that you just bumped into, you can do that too. The side stories are very short and it doesn't take up much of your time, but
I will have to say,
It
even
has good
Kojima
content and it's
has
funny
really long
nonetheless.
cutscenes and stuff. Be prepared for a bunch of stern-looking men sitting around a room talking for like 2 hours, with maybe one fight. No, that's a side mission. That's
Singing
a side
karaoke.
Mission. The main story
Singing
does not have
karaoke,
fun
let's
in
forget
it.
that.
It doesn't have anything funny in
Oh.
it. It just has weird stuff.
it's
You
a
go
very
in, like,
serious
you kick out
drama.
of the Yakuza because you killed this guy. And you're like, I didn't. So you have to like beat up like the leader. And he's like, don't tell anyone you did this, but you can leave. And I'll pin it on that guy. And then you leave. And then like you walk out, and some girl's like, can you help me like hide from my boyfriend that I'm selling in my panties? And he's like, I'll help you. That's that game.
Yeah, I'll really have to check them out. For me, the only reason I ever avoided it was just the fear that it strikes a little too close to
Home.
being about Japanese culture, and maybe home, maybe a little bit too modern because I'm kind of a fantasy sci-fi nerd. But I would definitely, I'll definitely give it a consideration. If it
Makes you feeling better. It's about Japan. So like even the modern ones, they still have.
that's
flip
true,
phones.
it's
Yeah.
still basically fantasy.
Yeah. Like I said,
Yeah,
if
that
anything,
sounds-
I would recommend you try at least play Zero this year, if you can.
All right, I'll see if I can target it because it is. I mean, as long the big distinction is that it's not like something that I would have mentally compared to it. If it's to me, Grand Theft Auto is like the central. This is the bad kind of sandbox game. I'm sorry to people who like Grand Theft Auto, but to me that was always like. You're driving around, you find a side mission, it's got uninspired writing, it feels like it's trying to be funny, but it really doesn't know what humor is, and then you do an activity that's almost disjointed from what that plot line was. It's like a shoehorned gameplay mechanic for a plot point that already wasn't that good, and it doesn't really like connect together. There's a disjoint between the gameplay and the narrative.
In defense of Grand Theft Auto, its purpose is to be trash TV, where you're like, no one's like, God, I really love Jerry Springer for its like well thought out,
And
like,
I got
segments and stuff like that, insight. It's that it has a purpose. Yeah, like no, you're right. The writing's bad. Like the missions are like always kind of like, why am I getting in a boat to chase a guy who's on a jet ski on land? Like this doesn't make sense.
And I guess.
And like it's not funny either,
It's
but
the
like
pulpiest.
you're just like, okay.
It's the closest a game has ever come to being just like pure pulp, and it isn't digestible for me. It was never my cup of tea. But if Yakuza leans more towards what I was describing with The Witcher than it does with that kind of thing with Grand Theft Auto, it sounds like it doesn't because of the more drama.
Everyone
end of it, then
keeps
I'll definitely
saying
check
they're
it out.
like, oh, Yakuza is just like Japanese GTA. It's like, no, it's not. Like you can't pick a fight with randoms. Randoms pick a fight with you. You can't steal cars because you never drive one. Like if you do, it's very rare. Like the side stuff in there has so much depth to it that it doesn't need. Like you can miss the entire part in, I think it's in Zero, where you can run a hostess cafe or something like that. And there's so much depth to that one mini game. It could be its own game. And it's something you could just miss.
Exactly.
And like the karaoke game it's not the most deep like music game, but it's a decent rhythm game that could pass for like a mobile rhythm game that you can just skip. There's so much. Like, there's one too. Like you can do things. You can go and learn about all the girls at the phone sex operating booth place that you can go and listen to, like call them and watch a video and call them, and like it will make a noise where he goes ugh, and like it just zooms to a thing of like Kleenex and like lotion, and you can miss all that. But you can also get depth out of the conversations from the women there.
Yeah.
It's a really weird game series.
That is pretty amazing. And this is not something you want to see gone from 2020. Specifically, your target is because you had started this by saying that you did not want dense open world games, and Breath of the Wild was what you defined as a dense open world game.
I say because just like so much like shit you go collect, but there's really nothing to do in Breath of the Wild. Like I'll defend it. I like it, but it's because I like Zelda, so I'm like, oh, I also just like to go wander in that game, but that's the last game I can do it in. I haven't been able to do it since, and before that it had been a while. I can't do these wandering games anymore. I can't do that. I can't do JRPGs with like battles that take longer than like a couple of minutes. That's why I don't like Octopath Traveler, because every fight's a boss fight for some reason.
Right.
And the boss fights take 2 hours.
I think I want to be careful with the way that I assess a game that came out just in the past couple of years like that, because what always happens with the Zelda series, I've noticed this trend immensely, especially with like Zelda YouTubers, is that they'll have a fairly strong negative opinion about whatever the most recent entry was, like a year after it came out, and then you wait like 3 years, and all of a sudden they're like, I kind of missed that one. Right? Like right now there is, I think, at least a little bit of an I'm sick of this factor with Breath of the Wild, because it stuck around for a while because people really loved it, and it just kind of got ingrained as, oh no, I know so much about this game because people won't shut up about it, right?
You know the Sonic cycle, right?
The Sonic cycle.
There's a Zelda cycle. It's the current game that came out. That's I love it. And then you end up hating it. It's the worst thing ever. The one that came out before it, this becomes, that one's underappreciated. I actually love this one. And then the one that came before that is now a classic. And this was Breath of the Wild, Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess. When Skyward Sword came out, people loved it, then they hated it. Twilight Princess became an unappreciated gem, and then Wind Waker became a classic after everyone hated on it for so long.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what's been happening.
So, like, wait for Breath of the Wild 2 to come out, and then people will probably be like, oh, I like this one. They'll be like, well, it's better than the last one, but the last one was okay. It's like a lot of people complain about stuff, but there's more to do in it than they realize. And then Skyward Sword will finally be in classic territory.
Yeah, and I've seen it. I mean, the Skyward Sword trend has just been climbing to, there was a lot of lore in that game. I think that was kind of fun. The motion controls weren't that bad. I think I like the fact that it had some motion controls, because we don't have that in the new one.
Saying there was
a
lot of lore in Skyward Sword is the biggest understatement you could have ever made about a game. That is the lore for the series. That is the lore heaviest game. Lore. It's like, what if there's more lore than gameplay? You're like, okay.
I think I'll make the official promise for 2020 that I will play Skyward Sword in 2020, because it is one of the main line Zelda games that I should have played that did not, simply because I didn't have the console. I should figure out how to play that.
Do you have a Wii or a Wii U?
Probably no.
If you can get a Wii cheap and then buy a disc of it, and it's gonna be expensive, or get a cheap Wii U and just buy it for $20 as a download.
I'll find the cheapest Wii there is. Hold on, because I kind of lost the train here. Oh, I did have one other question about this, which is, does anybody know, and I know that this is at least partly AVGN's fault, where did the let's kick Majora's Mask in the face trend start coming out this year?
Wait, everyone's shitting on it?
Yeah, there's just been like I understand that a lot of people came out maybe a couple of years ago being like, dude, this is the best Zelda game ever. Mm-hmm. But I almost feel like there's been a surgence of just people being like, you know what? Screw all of you. Majora's Mask is the worst game ever. Like, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, where Kim was like, pick a side kind of thing. And I've been noticing this now, where it's like, why does everybody have to either love or hate Majora's Mask?
It's because one of the most divisive ones.
Why does it have to? It's so polarizing.
Anything after Ocarina of Time is you either have to love it or hate it. Like, for me, Majora's Mask is one of my favorite Zelda games that I never want to play ever again, because of how tedious it is to get like the best ending in it. Like, if you want to get the good ending in it, it's just like, I don't want to do all these side quests again.
I guess it makes sense from a perspective of like, yeah, if you've seen it, there's really not much really intriguing reason to go through that again, because you know what's going to happen. Like, the big thing that game is another case of it is heavily narrative driven. The fact that all of these different side quests exist with all these characters, and you get to see the evolution of the characters, their lives, and the way that all ropes into one another is fascinating. That's why it's such a good game, is that I feel like it is the most living Zelda game that was ever made.
Yeah, so many NPCs have an arc, which not characters you can miss have arcs.
Yeah, they have arcs. They have feelings about things. Probably the most intriguing thing is the way that it works with the clock. Is you can go and interact with these characters and see their quest line to completion and see what happens with their story, or you didn't do their quest line and you get to see them progressively grow more miserable the more things you didn't do in their quest line. Especially with the cafe line. If you didn't do certain steps of the cafe line, then you get to see like a miserable alone person being like, well, this sucks. I guess I'm going to go and be a refugee now because the moon's falling. Or you didn't do the Termina, not the Termina. What the heck was that place called? No, the ranch in that game.
It's not Lon Lon Ranch, is it?
It's not Lon Lon. It was why can't I remember the name of anyway, you go to the ranch, and if you don't do the alien quest, then you instead of having a jovial child archer girl, you have a brain dead sad child. Like, just the fact that time progresses and you can miss things. Like, people hate the fact that you can miss things, but because you can miss things, you can see basically an entire another timeline of events that you wouldn't have witnessed. The kind of the dark side of the coin. What if you did nothing? Which is something that very few games ever explore.
I always forget that when we get into like Zelda, that like Ken just completely checks out.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Ken.
What? I took a nice nap there. Oh.
That's me every time someone talks about Death Stranding. I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna zone out here.
It looks like I should. You know what they should really do? They should take that Ring Fit game and make a Death Stranding mod for it, so I can literally just run across Death Stranding with my fitness game.
Oh, that's gonna suck when you beat the BTs.
If that game did not cost $80, I would have bought it yesterday. I want that game so bad.
I have it. That game is so. I'll do it.
I don't have $80.
I wouldn't.
I'm broke.
I'm sorry, but that is the most effective exercise game I have ever played. I will not stream it because it is an effective exercise game, but I did leg workouts as part of the adventure mode for that game yesterday, and I am sore. I actually hurt from playing that game.
I'm just picturing you with like this bright orange headband, running out with with matching orange cufflinks, trying to march out there with that ring in your thighs.
Doesn't Timber kind of look like a guy from the 80s?
Yeah.
He kind of does. Like especially your Facebook photo. You look like a dude from the 80s. Oh, I'm gonna look at it again.
You just wear
wear
a leotard and.
Well, listen, the 80s guys were just people who didn't. It was just people who didn't cut their hair. That picture was me when I didn't get a haircut. And I need to replace it with a post haircut.
At least one of you have seen Star Trek Next Generation, most of it, right? Or at least some of it.
I have seen everything except I think the last 2 seasons, which I really need to get around
Remember
to.
the season or the episode where they went to that planet was just full of like attractive people running around in like short shorts and stuff?
Yeah, that's literally like season 1, I think.
If you like,
where it's like the utopian society.
If you took your Facebook photo, put it in a circle, and you put this is, put like a name for it, like, actor in Star Trek Next Generation season 1 episode 5, like that planet, and like this is him now. I'd be like, I remember that guy. I remember him.
Yeah, he was so happy in that episode.
What happened?
Oh, goodness.
Your collar slightly popped in this photo, and it's really upsetting me. Or were you trying to pop your collar?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, it's like
I don't know.
It's collar adjacent right now. It's upsetting me.
We can't talk about my Facebook profile photo in this chat.
They don't need to know.
No one knows what that photo is.
They don't need to know. They don't need to know. In the comments, describe the photo you think I'm talking about. Like, what do you think it looks like? With the information
what do you think? What does TimberTaft look like to you?
I'd say go look at his stream, but he has to stream, in the past 84 years for anyone who's seen it. So next time he streams, look at him and then explain in the comments below what you think that photo looks like.
Speaking of streams, I'm sorry, everyone. I'll be starting streams probably starting tomorrow. You're not going to hear this until after I've already started, but it was a great time, and you all should have been there.
What were we talking about?
We just finished with Majora's
Okay,
Mask.
it's like, how did we get to this topic?
I don't honestly know how we ended up on talking about my Facebook pictures, but somehow that came from the next generation. Like, that was a wild ride.
We initially talked about trends of gamings that popped up throughout the last couple of decades that we wanted disappeared, and then somehow we got to Majora Mask.
We got to Kyo, and that was as far as we got.
Don't ask me questions. I'm just gonna go on random tangents forever. That's the problem.
The problem
that's
with
perfect
that question is
for
that
me.
The problem with that question is that Kyo's answer, I think, is the answer of the decade from pretty much every person who's played lots of video games lately. We are all sick of sandboxes. Please stop with them. Please give me a nice, properly written, cohesive, linear story. Because...
Oh, go ahead. I just got to...
Because the more sandbox you get, like, unless it's a world with lots of different stories happening in it, you cannot tell a cohesive story with a sandbox. It's not conducive to that. It weakens the writing because you're giving your players so much liberty to not do the story. So that's the last 2 cents that I had on that. Go ahead.
I want more like linear narrative games with stalkers in it, like Clock Tower. I want more
like Stalker. Do you want to play Stalker?
No,
that's a great game.
Horror games where you have like one like entity you can't kill that's chasing you and you're like slightly defenseless. I want that, but I want it to be point and click like Clock Tower.
But that we already went through like the Stalker era of like with Amnesia and
no. That's not that's like an invisible stalker. I want like a persistent like character who is like who could eventually become like an iconic character, like a character you have designed that is not just like some mystical force, so not like a magical source, mystic force. I don't want that. I want a character with a design and lore that's chasing you and might kill you, maybe with scissors. Who knows? You can figure it out. And like you just are defenseless and trying to run around and trying to figure shit out. I want that. I don't want God, if they ever make another Amnesia, I'm never touching it. I've played Amnesia The Dark Descent, which I didn't finish it because I got bored, and I finished A Machine for Pigs, which was fucking awful. Jesus Christ, someone was defending it, telling me it was more interesting than the first game. I'm like, there's no story in A Machine for Pigs. The story is like, the opinion, like the last half an hour has all the story of it, if that.
The opinion for Machine for Pigs when it came out was that it was not a good game, and I don't think the opinion has really shifted from that too much.
I played it about, was it sometime in October maybe? It was bad. That game sucks. It sucks. People who like it suck. It's a bad game. No story. Gameplay is like, how do you simplify Amnesia? The first Amnesia game already had like pretty simple simple like mechanics, very little interaction gameplay, and then Machine for Pigs is just like, what if you just didn't do anything and you just walked and like sometimes clicked a mouse key and you're just like, okay, that sounds fucking terrible, but okay.
I think Amnesia got more interesting when you got on the modding scene and got to just play what the average user did to basically mangle that system into absolute like I don't know, it just got really entertaining when it would be like they try to make a scary room and it would just be like silly. Like, I don't know, the comedy. Amnesia is a game that almost excels more at being accidentally funny than legitimately terrifying. Mm-hmm. More often than not.
I really just
that's why it's so entertaining to watch people get scared, because I'm like, I think this game is hilarious, and I think the fact that you find it scary is even funnier.
It's not scary. There's nothing what I ran into is even scary remotely.
I thought Alien nailed the fear factor of that style of game a lot more.
Alien was a good stalker style game where like you have one entity that's stalking you. I just wish the game was half the length and just only had the alien and not the handy J's or like human enemies. I found those to be like too.
I agree.
Like if they just if the handy J's were around a little bit, and you're just like, okay, this robot's gonna maybe impede progress, but there's just like a bunch of them, like 3 of them, like staring at you, like marching forward and choking you until you die. That's boring. Just give me some aliens where I have to sneak past it, like Just make it like a clock tower game.
Like I know it would have been overwhelming, but if there was more dynamic enemy encounters in that game, where it's like it's not just that there's handy J's in the game, it's that they're there, and so is the alien. Like the fact that I could taste the dividers, right? Like I would go through an area and I'm like, oh, this is the handy J section. I'm not going to see an alien here because this is the handy J section.
Yeah, like when you get there, you can almost taste
like,
the handy
there's
J's
humans
before you get in there.
You can almost taste the handy J's. Yeah, it's in the air. Then you get to the human section. It's like, well, there's humans here. At least sometimes the alien would pop it in human sections
the handy
to
J's
rip
like,
them to pieces.
it's in the air. It's just like all over the place. You just like don't know where it's gonna be, but like it could be anywhere. But like that game is so fucking long. It could have been so much shorter. It's 20 hours long.
Yeah, that's kind of why I've never really
on a how long to beat leisurely playthrough. It's just 20 hours.
It's long. I got to the flamethrower and then I was like, neat. Now it's not scary anymore, so I guess I'm good.
They're making a Predator game now.
Like a Predator where you're being stalked by the Predator kind of thing?
Like the character Predator. That same studio's making Predator. Like an alien-like game, I think.
That could be interesting. Although I'd kind of be scared because the minute that you make the stalker enemy something that can shoot me with a dangerous, accurate projectile, I'm not sure if I'll have as much fun running away from it. But what do you want to see change in 2020, Ken?
I built upon that with Kyo's one saying I don't want to see go up a tower and look about you and then do all those tower things.
Yes. The tower games. I think, fortunately, that trend is mostly dying outside of Ubisoft. Like, until Ubisoft learns to stop doing it, you're still going to see it every once in a while because Assassin's Creed and anything else that company makes. But I can't say that there's too many other games that I saw doing that, especially since, like you said, building off of Kyo, we're talking about it pretty much has to be an open world for that to even be a thing. So if we get rid of sandboxes, they're overly dense sandboxes that don't have anything actually going on, we kind of hit two birds with one stone on the tower bit as well.
We'll move on. Like we were gonna do game of the year stuff, but it's gone on long enough.
Everybody's done it, and I don't. It's just one of those things where it's like, who cares if this was my favorite game of 2019? Like, what if I'm like, my favorite game happened 3 years ago and nothing came out in 2019 that I felt was noteworthy?
I will say, like, for me at least, like, I don't have a favorite game that came out last year because I wasn't really big in most of the games that like came out last year. Kind of a letdown for me. But at least for like one, like for me, like the defining moment of like games for me were like things like a new, like at least changed the way I looked at games or changed the way I like did games, like on stream or off, was just like Gabriel Knight 2, the Beast Within. That was like the best FMV game I played in a long time. It was so fucking funny. The chat was like, everyone was having a good time during that ridiculous game, and I think that was like the most fun I had game-wise the past year, because I finished it. Chrono Cross I started last year but finished this year, so I can save that for this year. But I really think it was Gabriel Knight 2. There's so many memes that we got out of that in my channel, and just everyone loves it. Like, even people that don't know it, there's like, what are these people's faces in your emotes in Discord? I'm like, it's Gabriel Knight. You missed it. You missed one of the best things ever.
I'm so happy that you actually got to enjoy that, and that you found something. It's one of those, like, you dug up a hidden gem from the ancient times and were able to enjoy it like it's new. I think there's something really commendable to that.
I think that game really helped solidify my like shift into like just basically streaming games from now on. Like, definitely.
It's already basically what I do. I might dip into a new game every once in a while if it's like something I'm really interested in, but like, I'm never on top of those trends.
Yeah, so. I don't bother with trend chasing either. I understand that. How about you? What was your favorite or like, I don't know, most memorable game you played the past year, new or not?
Absolutely, Tales of Vesperia. I talked about it a lot this stream near the beginning, kind of just saying how much I liked it, and I've shifted from thinking, it was an okay game, and it's funny, just literally I just stopped playing video games for a while, and I came back going, I really just want to play more of that. Like, the next stream that I'm going to do is probably going to be Tales of Vesperia. I just want to play more Tales of Vesperia. I want to play more of it. I don't care that the numbers of viewers are down, or that the it's not the most recent Tales game, and people aren't as interested. Like, I've been getting so much joy from the interactions of these characters and from the music and from the aesthetics of the game that it really feels like something fresh to me, even though it's old. It doesn't have any of the overly anime ridges that I sensed when I tried to experience Zestiria, which is another one that I own and tried a bit.
I've heard that
I have
one's very
Berseria,
good.
which I would like to try, but I'm not going to touch that. I was trying to get through Zestiria because I wanted to play Berseria, but I don't know if I can do it.
It's not important. Just look up shit if it comes up.
Have you actually have you played the whole thing? Was it really?
I have a friend that's playing. I played through probably about like 10 hours of Zesty. I'm like, this is fucking terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a friend that's playing through Berseria, and he's just like, he didn't play Zesty, and he's just like, I like this game a whole lot. He's like, this is probably one of the best JRPGs I've played in a long time.
All right, I'll have to remember that when I'm sifting through Tales games that I want to do next. What about you, Ken?
That's really difficult. It's a toss up between Final Fantasy 14 and Tetris 99 actually.
God, Tetris 99 is such a good game. Such a like the time sink.
So if I had to single it down to a single game that I purely did enjoy in 2019, it was 14.
Final Fantasy 14.
I can see that.
Yes.
Makes sense. You did talk about it a lot in several of our other podcast episodes too, so
Yes.
I can confirm you definitely played Final Fantasy 14. Yeah, I had, and Tetris 99 makes sense as like a second choice there as well. I had a friend who, after getting Tetris 99, that's like all they exclusively played for like the next 3 months. They even got a tattoo of like a Tetris piece because they were like, it's their identity now. They're into Tetris. But
how about on the flip side? What was like the least memorable or like just your least favorite gaming experience of this past year? I'll go last.
I need to give it some thought because if it's not memorable, I've forgotten it.
Or just like what's something that you just like, this was like the worst gaming experience I had this
Resident
past year.
Evil.
Or Resident Evil.
Shocked
Like two or any of them? Two.
Shocked how critical the opinions of 2 have been from both of you, because I played that one as well, and I did have an enjoyable time with it, maybe because I didn't have as much of a direct connection to the original version of Resident Evil 2, which I had played but I never owned, so it was something I just experienced through like a friend, right?
Well, coming from me, I don't play the horror game, so I only liked it for one thing, and that's Ada, but we won't get into that. Big surprise there. But everything else, I'm like, was this how 2 was? If so, then I don't understand why everyone really liked 2 out of the most of them, because they always talk about 2 and then 4 and things like that, but I just didn't see the appeal if this was the story.
Honestly, it's kind of like Final Fantasy 7, where like it came out when they came of age, so that's their favorite. When honestly, for Resident Evil, the best one's RE3, hands down. That actually is the best one of the old style. It is literally the best one that they made in the old style.
Yeah,
But 2 came out at a time where like that was everyone's like horror version of Final Fantasy 7. Like that was the one that was defining for them, because they probably weren't old enough when 1 came out to really remember it, or like they might have played 1 as a younger kid, but like 2 they played when it was new. That was their game. Like maybe 1 was their older brother, or their dad, or they're like another older sibling or something's game. That one was theirs. 2 was their game, or something like that. Tim, did you think of anything?
So I've been very selective with the games I played this year, to the point where I'm pretty sure I've only really played like 5 or 6, and every single one of them that I played I was very happy with. I started this year with Devil May Cry 5, which I still think was one of the best entries, even if there are some who would argue that is not true because they are Devil May Cry 3 to death. But I thought 5 was a very, very impeccable entry. I thought it was flashy. It did everything that I wanted a Devil May Cry game to do. So if we're talking about games I didn't like this year, it's not like stuff that I really picked up this year. It's just stuff that I was digging through the trash in my Steam library for, and I was like, I played The Witness. It didn't really do it for me. It was a lot of puzzles without much. It was a lot of puzzles without any real reward system to it, so it felt like my reward was always just, here's another one, here's another one, here's another one. And while I like feeling smart because I figured it out, the more that my reward is just doing something harder, the less I want to do it. Because to me, the gameplay is not in itself a reward. I've never been a gameplay for gameplay's sake kind of gamer. That's why I play RPGs. I do play games at least a little bit because I want the game to do something to me. I want to emerge from the game with having either learned something about myself or about the perspective of the developer of the world, or just I want it to tell me something. And there's a lot of games out there that exist that don't necessarily want to tell you anything besides this is a game and this is how you play it. And those never do it for me. So I think that was probably the lowest point, and I kind of expected it to be. So, it's one of those things where it's like, that's exactly what I thought would happen. It looked pretentious. I played it. It was pretentious. That's the end. But what about you, Kyo?
What do you think mine is? Just out of curiosity.
You're not allowed to repeat what someone else has said, right? So it can't just be Resident Evil again.
Well, whatever. I'm not putting any rules. What do you think my most disappointing gaming experience is?
I had assumed it was RE2.
What about you, Tim? What do you think?
Let's see. Things that Kyo played that would have disappointed and or infuriated him. Hopefully it wasn't the Tex Murphy adventure game that I bought you.
I haven't played it yet.
Yeah, I probably would have just said Resident Evil as well.
You're both wrong. It was Pokemon Go.
Pokemon Go?
Go?
Why Pokes?
Not Sword and Shield? Is it because I didn't get you your goddamn Corsola? I swear to God.
Oh, you gave it to my girlfriend instead, and I'm really sorry that you gave her the Corsola instead. But it's because Sword and Shield, while disappointing, were just mediocre, and I expected that. Pokemon Go is becoming more increasingly infuriating as I play it, to the point where I am almost about to delete the app, because I swear to God, the game has been fucked up for like 2 months, because everything breaks out of its fucking ball. Eggs don't work. There's a couple areas where it just does not work in my town, and I don't know if it's the game's fault or what, but it's just like one side of the park it doesn't pick up anything, the other side it does. That doesn't make any sense to me. And then just like the fact that it seems the more stuff I have, the more stuff it makes me waste in there, like more resources. And like every Pokemon will just like break out of its ball on the first throw all the time. Curve balls don't work. I cannot figure out how far I'm supposed to throw a ball, like how far I'm supposed to fling it, and it like just go through the Pokemon. It just goes through it, and it drives me so crazy. It makes me so angry. It is giving me an ulcer when I play that game. That's how pissed off I've been at it. And it just, every time I try to play it, I just want to enjoy it. Go out to like the park or something with girlfriend and play fucking Pokemon Go. And I'm getting to the point where I'm like screaming at my phone and about to throw it in the fucking lake whenever I play that shitty ass game. But I keep playing it and I don't know why. And that has been my most disappointing gaming experience this year.
But did you expect? But did you really expect it to not be disappointing?
I expect it to be more fun and less like dickish. Because she's not having these problems I'm having.
So it sounds like a you problem.
All right, we have some questions tonight. Let's see. I think we covered the Pokemon Sword and Shield stuff. What disappointed me about the game? I'll wait a little bit longer to see like Tim to finish that, and then go off.
We'll
from there.
see. I have a horrible track record with finishing Pokemon games. Just a flash warning there.
I'll give you like one more 2-week period to get further in it to the point where you feel like you're okay to talk about it, and then we'll go from there. Let's see. Mako asked, Kyo, why have you forsaken me? Do you no longer require my friendship? Have my skills outlived their usefulness? I am but a burb-shaped memory. I don't know how to respond to this. I don't know how to respond to that one. AlabamaTofu asked, funk or ska? I say
funk.
Ska. Ken, do you know what either of those
Yeah, I
genres
kind
are?
of have to for a music-based podcast. Ska, yes.
Well, which one do you prefer? Funk, ska? Okay, well, there we go. Ska's better.
Man.
Timber's opinion sucks.
Look, ska all sounds the same. Funk is all about not ever.
Funk all sounds the
never
same.
sounds the same. That's the whole thing about funk is that it's like all over the scale. You can't be the same with funk. At least if you.
Yeah, you can.
No. Not if you do it right.
I'm looking forward to Timber covering Uptown Funk, but with a parody and him having a rap.
You better
bit
not.
again.
You don't.
Also, people, if you want to hear Timber rap again, please let us know in the comments, and I will make him do a rap video again.
I mean, Devilman was not that long ago, guys. I still do the raps. It's not dead.
No. I want the one like you did in Umbrella, the Umbrella parody.
That wasn't Umbrella either.
Or whichever one.
That was Rihanna's Unfaithful.
Okay, whichever one was the Gary
Yeah.
Up song, which is the one I send everyone.
Well, okay.
All right. Our question: what do you think of horror visual novels in general? Not about streamability. I think horror visual novels are mostly good. Like you said no streamability. I think that one really just depends on your audience and that one. But I like horror visual novels because they tell without showing, whereas like action horror games show and don't tell. So you get more of a deep story, probably more fucked up stuff in a visual novel because the writing has to be decent. Like I love Corpse Party, but I love them. I just wish there was something I could play more often.
Does Doki Doki Literature Club count?
Yeah, that's a horror.
Yeah, that
So
counts.
I have a sense. Okay. Spoilers? Sorry. If you weren't in on the Doki Doki horror.
I mean, everyone knows about
Just
it.
Monica.
Just no one knows where it turns. Did you have any opinions on either of those? Either of you?
Well, I
Ken,
don't play horror visual novels, but I would love to see more visual novels have representation on Twitch.
Yeah.
I would just in general like to see visual novels like get more awards because everyone's like the best writing was this big game that came out from like Naughty Dog. It's like, but that's not even the best written game this year. Like I think Deathmark came out in English for like this past year. And it's like I'm pretty sure that has better writing than most AAA games, but it's not gonna get it because who the fuck cares if Deathmark gets a Game of the Year award from Jeff Keighley and his Doritos dust-covered fingers.
Right. I think part of the struggle is contending with the fact that they are not necessarily games that push boundaries. Their writing might be good, but if you think of it in terms of a game, short of the visual graphic elements that are displayed as part of these visual novels, hence the visual part of it, I mean, these things have been being made since the 1980s. That's where stuff like Zork came from, where it's literally just like a text-based visual novel / adventure game that you could play through. It doesn't take a whole lot to code it, so it's not a technically impressive feat to make one.
One of these days, if I ever go back to streaming, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to stream the AKB dating game.
Do it.
Mostly because they had to make, for the final one, they made 148 girls featured in this game. And to come up with at least 5 to 6 different scenarios for all 148 girls is pretty freaking impressive.
Okay.
Along with the ending for each particular girl, because they all have an ending one where, okay, yeah, we lead up to this nice movie at the end where they pretty much profess their love to you. I kind of want to do that but the thing is, the entire game is fully in Japanese. I would have to translate every single scenario. I think I would go freaking crazy if I did that. But
Do it.
yeah, if I ever come back to streaming,
Do it.
that'll
Do
be
it
one
for
of the
free.
first games I will do.
Do this translation job. For
Yeah,
me.
I'll do it.
I'm definitely curious. I mean, I'm always curious with that kind of game. Like, how does a developer feel when they know that 1/103rd of their effort might be the only part that a player sees in their playthrough? No, definitely.
Like
if somebody's like, I'm not, most people aren't going to go and be like, oh yeah, I'll just see all of them. So, how do you feel knowing that almost 90% of your effort might never be seen by large chunks of the audience? But
No, I completely understand. After like the second or third date that you go on to with one of the members, like half of those members just drop like flies.
oh no.
Because it has like a bar that says like, oh yeah, you can fall in love with 1 out of 148 of them, and then right around the second or third one, now you can only fall in love with 80 of them because they just lost interest.
Just like real life.
No, just like real life.
See, I like visual novels because like Phoenix Wright counts, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love those. I mean, they're ones I don't want to play again because they're like once you see the game, you know what happens. But I mean, I've always had more interest in visual novels. I just wish I had more time to play them. Like a lot of times, like my time to play those would be at night, and if I'm reading at night, I'm gonna fall asleep. Like whether or not the game's interesting or not, it's just gonna happen.
I mean, we can certainly talk about this topic a little bit. What games do you play that aren't streamed, Go?
I just went through Chrono Cross.
Chrono Cross.
I play Pokemon entirely off stream. I try to play JRPGs off stream more or less. I played Halo Reach off stream with Mark when he actually fucking plays with me. It's like I don't play a whole lot off stream anymore just because I play games all day. Like
Yeah.
you know, like 6 to 8 hours every day. I play games on stream. I try not to play them at night. But then like off stream, I'll just play whatever. Like I'll play like a couple minutes of this, or like I'll play this for an hour while girlfriend's watching TV and we're watching Next Generation while she's playing Pokemon.
Yeah,
So like nothing as consistent.
I do find it interesting. This is very common with streamers where, because you stream games, you feel like you're cheating yourself by playing more games when you're not streaming them. There's even almost this always on mentality of like, well, if I'm playing a game, why am I not streaming a game? It's a very treacherous slope that's difficult to it's really difficult to play. It's like some people say, oh well, streaming drains me, and I'm like, I'll be honest, not for me really. Like if I stream things compared to not streaming things, I don't really feel it. Like I don't really have to like change myself too much to be my streamer person. So I don't know. I guess it's different for everybody, but I almost never play games off stream. This past 2 weeks where I just had to take a hiatus for other reasons was the only reason I had time. But
it's nice. It will be like it was nice just playing Chrono Cross by myself, not having to like read out the text to everyone. Like like I could look up a guide if I want to do something without fear of like, oh, maybe if people know I'm looking at a guide, maybe they won't want to watch this because I'm cheating air quotes at it. I'm like, I was like so absorbed in it too. I'm like, I don't have to worry about, I want to play more of this, but I need to wait till tomorrow morning. It's just like, I want to play more of this. I have time now. I don't have time right now. Oh, I can just do some little random battle shit right now. It was like a lot less stressful.
I think that's probably the most criminally problematic thing with streaming games is the sense, like right now with Tales of Vesperia, I love it. I'm streaming it. There was a moment during that 2-week period where I was like, I want to play that, but I'm not streaming it, so I can't. Like, there's I don't know. These might just be invisible barriers we create for ourselves, but it's definitely a real thing. I don't know how I ended up on that tangent, but I appreciate the way.
Let me see. We have a couple more questions. Feel like they'd go really long, so I'm gonna like cherry. Hold on. Let's see.
Let's stitch them together into one word from each question and answer that.
Okay, there's 2 questions. I'll do the easy one first, real quick. Does speedrunning ruin horror games? Yes, it does. Let's see. Tofu asks, does speedrunning ruin horror games? The genre specifically due to the nature of horror and the need to basically break the game to run it properly, therefore rendering it impotent in the ability to scare. Yeah, I mean, like basically, for a horror game, speedrunning ruins it. It's gonna fucking ruin it. Especially like, all the fear is gone for one. The fear becomes the fear of the fear of losing progress or of losing time. Like the one thing, like I'm gonna count Dino Crisis in as a horror game, like for real, like for a minute. The tension that is gone, that was in the game before of like, the dinosaurs are going to kill me. Now the tension is there's a dinosaur over there and I might lose an hour's worth of what I just did because it might kill me. So like the horror is gone. It's just more of like, it becomes generic. All the horror speedruns are pretty much generic. You just play it quickly. All the interesting bits are skipped. Everything that could be considered horror is skipped. I 100% think speedrunning ruins horror games as a horror game. Like, and then people don't want to watch people play like the horror games as horror games anymore. They just want to see them as speedruns. So like I think speedrunning has ruined horror as a genre. Like the fact one of the people I know, he's trying to speedrun the fucking Blair Witch game that came out. That's when you know you're getting to a point where like the genre doesn't matter anymore. It's just a dressing for like a different style of playing a game. When you're trying to speedrun a walking simulator that's really boring, that did nothing new, and you're trying to rush through that and skipping any semblance of something interesting, the genre's dead. The horror genre is pretty much dead as far as new games are concerned because speedrunning has killed it.
Wasn't its first death when Let's Plays, not just Let's Plays, but PewDiePie style Let's Plays kind of became a thing when it was like, hey, watch me react to being scared to this game. You see this person get scared at the game, and he has a legitimate, authentic reaction to it, and he enjoys the horror genre experience. Everybody watching him experience that horror experience, I don't think really get... It's definitely not the same. Like, I remember...
It's not as scary watching someone else get scared.
It's not. Like, you can potentially get scared. I know that when I watched someone else play Five Nights at Freddy's, I still got, like, the panic attack from the shock value of what that was, which some would argue it's not even a horror game, it's just a jump scare simulator. But in the context of, like, a horror game, if you're watching somebody else play, it's not scary. That's actually how I ingested horror games when I was younger, because I was too scared to physically play them, but I had other friends who were into them, and I would watch them play, and I kind of got desensitized to horror enough to even enjoy them myself. But I kind of had to see people go through the ropes. Like, if you would have handed me a controller on Silent Hill, and I had never played a horror game before, that would be a million times more scary than if I had played Resident Evil and Alien Isolation and Amnesia before going and playing Silent Hill. Not to say it's not still scary, but there is just a familiarity with the genre helps advise my actions in the game and makes it a lot less impactful when it's like, here, have this clunky tank control, and now you're walking around, it's like, oh crap, there's fog. What does fog mean? Look at all these house doors. I'm so overwhelmed at these doors that I can't go. Can I go through them? And then you spend the next 3 hours trying to open doors because you didn't learn the basic gaming principle that unless the mini-map has a little slot in it that means a door you can go through, everything else is just set dressing. Like, these are little things that you learn from playing games over time. If you just hopped into that game is incredibly terrifying.
They did expand on the question a little bit. I'm just looking at down here. Ken, were you talking?
Yeah, I mean, for me, even if it was a scary game, I still wouldn't be able to do it. Like for example, if I were to play FNAF, even if all the training of watching like Markiplier and all that stuff, for me, I wouldn't be able to play it. I can't play it because, well, for me, I have an irrational fear of inanimate objects coming to life, so that game is just like a hell no to me.
One thing they expand on was like it's different than like horror games. Like for one, like they said, with a horror game, once you break it, there's no way it can be unsettling. Once that game has been broken for you, you can't regain that fear. But then they said like it's different than like breaking Super Mario Sunshine or like, you know, like a platformer where like once you break it, a whole new world of how to play this game has opened, and like it doesn't ruin the previous experience, but now you're just like, how do I use these mechanics to do something different? Whereas most horror games is, how do I just rush past the interesting bits?
That's true. I mean, I could even say it with... Sorry. I could even say it with YouTubers who did little, like, just basic breaking of games. Things like, let's take the monster from Amnesia and twist its model so its head's on its ass, right? Like, you take that, and all of a sudden, it's, oh yeah, that diffused the horror element. It's gone. Like, now it looks ridiculous to me, and I'll never unsee the ridiculousness of that moment. I think that's the kind of thing you're getting at, too, with the speedrunning glitches as well.
Yeah. I mean, I can probably expand upon my opinion of this a bit more on stream or, like, in Discord. I don't know if I can, like, fully articulate how I feel, but, like, I do think, yeah, horror games are kind of ruined with speedrunning. Like, the horror game bit is gone. It could literally just be anything else at that point that you're running through quickly.
That's true. Especially if the monsters can't keep up with you. So you just like...
Yeah. If you're just running past everything, it stops being scary. There was another question, but it's really long, and it's almost like 10 p.m. my time. So I wouldn't mind wrapping up now and just saving that for the next podcast in a couple weeks.
All right.
I have it earmarked with my thunk emote.
Keep that thunk strong.
Sounds good.
Well, that'll do it for this episode of the Podasaurus. Remember, this was Season 2, Episode 3. I hope that you enjoyed. Again, I was your host, TimberTaft. If you enjoyed what you saw here so far, you can find more of my content. I stream on twitch.tv/TimberTaft Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays, usually at 8:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also find me on youtube.com/TimberTaft, where I make top 10s, reviews, parodies, and song covers, as well as other things. And you can find me on twitter.com/TimberTaft if you want to see my schedule and just general musings, though I don't muse that often on there because social media is the devil. Where can people find you, Kyo?
My name is Lou. I go by KyoryuHunter online. I'm on KyoryuHunter on everything except for Twitter's Kokusai Kyoryu. All the things are linked down below. I stream retro games, retro horror games, anything that's fucking weird. Like, it was earlier in the week, I tried playing Blue Stinger. It sucks. And then I played Clock Tower, and then like Zombies in My Neighbor. It's just a little mix of like a variety of old and horror and shitty and weird games. I play those like every morning, starting at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, Monday through Friday. Weekends are always a question mark, but lately they have been a no. And I also host this here podcast most of the time, but you know that because you listened to the first 2 episodes, right?
Right.
Welcome to the Podasaurus.
Yeah, that one there. But yeah. How about you, Ken?
You can find me on my Japanese music-based podcast, Ongaku. You can find my lovely rants about the Japanese music industry. We just had a couple big episodes this past couple weeks, and we have one more coming up by the time this podcast airs. So you can check that out at ongaku.com, and you can find that on the Twitters at ongaku, and you can find me on Twitter at otyken1.
All right. And that has been the show. Thank you for watching / listening. I hope you enjoyed the video.
It's audio.
It's on the YouTubes now. It's a video too. You watched it.
It's just a static image.
It moves if you use the animated one. It's a video, I tell you. It's viewable.
Uh-huh.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, aloha.